So I'm gonna speak for a little bit. Okay, let's see. Testing. Just say something. So let's see if the soft.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so I'm gonna speak for a little bit. We're live now. All right. Welcome everyone to TheBuzz, which is powered by Washington Post. My name is Jed Bartlett, if you don't know already. And tonight, this morning, we have Vice President TimGeithner. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, hi.
All right. So today we're just gonna ask him a couple of questions. After we have 20 preset questions with the Vice President. If you guys have any questions that you would want to give to him after, ask your questions in the chat using hashtag AskVPTim. And when we start getting questions from the audience, I will be able to see who has questions and who doesn't. In the background, we are playing Phantom Forces. If you wish to join with me, you could freely follow. So let's begin. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Let's get into it.
Alright, so, Tim, what is your favorite part about being vice president?
I'd say probably just interacting with people. I like doing events like press conferences and doing the governing aspect, so I would just say talking to people themselves. The experience is rewarding, and you do get to meet a lot of people, a lot of different people, and you get to interact with all kinds of faces, and it is very fun.
That's
So that would be my favorite part.
As vice president, do you feel you get involved with the American people? Do you think you can do much more?
I think I actually get involved more than most have in my position. I talk to a lot of people personally, which is, I think, different than previous cases through Twitter and Skype and Discord. I do a lot of press conferences. I try to do one every few days so that people can just ask me questions. This is an example of me interacting with the public. I try to keep as connected as possible. Obviously, there are some times where it's just not always possible, but I do try to stay as connected as often as possible. So yeah, I'd say I'm pretty well connected, and there's always room to improve, and I'm looking to do that. I'll be doing a lot more events in the future, which I look forward to.
So your opinion on past vice presidents are not good. You don't feel that they did a good enough job. Do you feel that you want to improve that, something that they didn't do?
It's not. I'm not criticizing. It's not my place to criticize people who have served before me, but I do think there's a unique aspect where I am interacting more than many have before me, so I would say that, yes.
Alright. Next question. Some people think you are taking the spotlight away from the current president, Sudden. Do you think so? If not, how much are you in the current picture of the administration? So, if you didn't understand the question, basically, some people think that you're much more involved than Sudden is at this current moment. But do you think that's true? If not, like how much are you involved with compared to Sudden?
I don't think I'm taking the spotlight from Sudden per se. I'm very active, and he is as well. He still remains popular. He still remains committed. I think the difference, though, is I'm the first vice president he's had that he's actually enjoyed working with and has wanted, and is the first person that he includes. We work more as equals than as boss to employee, which is something that cultivates a relationship where we both are incredibly involved and active. So I would not say I'm stealing any spotlights. I would just say that there's a marked difference between me and predecessors in terms of influence and access. I remain immensely involved in the administration and its decision making. So no, I would not say that I'm stealing any spotlight.
All right. So this is in comparison to his previous vice presidents, including H. Prince. T- um, oh my God, I can't believe I just forgot. Oh my. Terrence
David
Walsh
Axelrod.
and David Axelrod. Yeah. Oh my God, I think I just like brain farted for a second, if you know what I mean. In comparison to them, correct?
Yes.
Alright, next question. Recently you announced you were running for president. Earlier, even in that same week, you stated that it's too early to run. What made you change your mind?
Primarily, there were factors, including Ozyman. My number one priority is to keep him from winning. Whether that means supporting me or supporting somebody else, that's up to people individually. But my number one priority for the country is to keep him from winning. So, because he had announced and he had begun putting in work, I decided to announce early just to let people know that there are more options, because I didn't want people gravitating to him just because they thought he was the only alternative. My intention is to not begin really campaigning for a while. The priority still is government. Sutton knows this, he's okay with it. So that's what I would say on that.
You have said, like, you have strong opinions about Ozzy and what he does. Just for the people who don't know your opinions on him, can you just recap what are your?
I mean, this is a guy who tells Americans on Twitter to drink bleach when they don't support him. This is a guy who uses the N-word, who calls African Americans coons, porch monkeys, and a whole nother list of expletives. He gets into arguments with people, he rages, he gets into tantrums, he uses capitalized letters and starts yelling. He is inherently corrupt. He's under investigation for rigging an election all the way back in like June. He's a homophobe. He has been caught. Sudden released logs of him saying that his last campaign that he was legitimately just promising jobs to people to win their vote. And I quote, he said, just for their vote, unquote. And he said he had no intention of following through. He is probably one of the worst people I've ever come across on a computer game or on the internet. And I do not understand his supporters who have seen all of this and still support him. That takes some real, ignorance. That it takes real ignorance when you've seen everything that Ozyman has done to still support him. It takes ignoring the facts, lying to yourself. He's also proven to not be good at jobs. He failed as Secretary of Defense. He failed his nominations for Homeland Security. He failed his federal judge nomination, incredibly. The guy is a terrible person, and I don't see how anyone could support him. And support me, don't support me, just don't support Ozyman. That would be my message to anyone. I am always open to letting people come to support me, but I can't imagine how someone could support him after everything. He also uses parties. He just used the Republican Party and put a stain on their name. He's now using the plutocrats, which he's done all of this multiple times in the past. He's tried to use Democrats. He's a leech who needs to be put down, to be honest. I cannot tolerate someone like him in this country.
Just a quick note on that.
The evidence is all over Twitter. I'm not saying these things just by, I'm not making these things
up. The screenshots are all over Twitter. You just have to find them. They're on Sutton's Twitter, they're on my Twitter, they're on your Twitter, they're on everybody's Twitter. I do not see how somebody can apply such cognitive dissonance and still support him after seeing everything. I just do not understand it. And it does frustrate me.
Just on like a side note, I've recently talked to some of the Ozzy supporters, and I was one of them back in almost 4 months ago, and personally I do regret it. But just talking to some of them now, most of them are only supporting him for a job. I was talking.
Exactly. His campaign is predicated on this new motto that he wants to give everybody a dream job. But I do not get how people can still believe that when we released logs of him saying, not just 2 months ago, that he was only promising jobs for votes and that he had no intention of following through. And even if he does give you a job, do you really expect him to follow through on it for more than a week? I mean, you shouldn't be campaigning. You should not be supporting somebody just because you're going to get a job either. You should be supporting someone based on their ideas and their plans for the group. I don't see how Ozyman could bring jobs in when he's failed at every job he's had. He would damage this country beyond repair.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. I know the Ozzy man conversation is very controversial, but it has a strong argument to it. Question number 5. In your administration, how many new faces will you add to it? Also, how do you feel about the current cabinet officials?
I am a believer that there are new faces to find. You just have to find them. And that means you need to find the competent people who can be new. I'm a believer in a mix of new and old. I think some people are a bit naive when it comes to cabinet jobs, and they've never held a real job. They haven't worked up the ranks in their area of interest, and then they wonder why they're not given a cabinet job. If you're applying for Secretary of Defense and you haven't been in the military or you haven't worked in defense departments, I mean, I don't get, it is unfortunate. It would be naive to apply for that and then be angry that you didn't get it. There are I have seen very few people that have not had prerequisite experience in NUSA do well in those kind of jobs. But my goal will be to find new faces that are actually competent. So that means looking into the departments themselves and seeking people out rather than having them come to us primarily, because there are a lot of agents and public servants that are there and they just need to be tapped into. So that is what I would say regarding new faces.
One of the new faces, you mentioned how you need someone competent but new. Wouldn't you portray yourself as that? You've only been here since May. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would put myself as that, but I also, and that's what I mean, I think there's more of that around. You just have to find them. But there's also a lot of people who just aren't prepared and then get very angry when they're not given it. You have to work your way up. My goal will be to bolster lower tier jobs first. You should be working your way up. You shouldn't be going top to top. You should be going bottom to top. Which means if you haven't been in Secret Service, don't apply for Secret Service Director. Join the Secret Service through a tryout, become an agent, do some stuff there for a while, and then maybe see what happens. That's what I would say.
We'll go on to the next question. How many Americans have been complaining about not enough faces in the administration? I know you kind of answered this. Do you find this true? If not, how is it false?
I think there was a clear mistake made by giving Secretary of Defense to Zayed and Secretary of State to Lumidas. I had actually been opposed to those, not because I didn't feel that they were qualified, but because I thought it would be a slap in the face to the promise we made to bring in more new faces. I was the one who actually got them relocated so that we could bring in different people. I think we have a pretty healthy mix right now. I think we could probably do a bit better on some parts. That's what I would say.
But isn't the current nominee for Secretary of the State a past president? Isn't the same kind of pattern still happening that Secretary of State is given to past presidents?
Well, I think we're going to try to counter that by appointing a completely new person, a deputy. The reason Arium is being considered is because we do need we are in a bit of a tight situation with foreign policy.
With
So
the whole
Arium-
UK is still very.
Yeah, we have to refocus on UN and NATO, and Arium has experience there, invaluable experience. He was the one who got us recognized along with Terrence Walsh. So we're going to try to counterbalance that by bringing in someone completely new as his deputy, and I look forward to that.
I know this is probably heard or people have been supporting Lego Man, who's a current representative. Would you consider him for deputy? I don't know. It's just a question.
I won't comment on that.
No comment. But where are you looking for a deputy? Are you looking inside the State Department, or just looking for someone with some foreign experience?
I'm looking for someone who has the best ideas.
Next question. When do you plan on starting? When do you plan to start campaigning full time? Also, how much will your vice presidential candidate Sufferpoop be involved?
My intention, we're gonna do a kind of kickoff rally, either late September, early October, then go dark for a bit again, and then we'll slowly ramp up. By November, we will probably be doing weekly rallies, and by December, we'll be going almost every day. Right now, we're just focused on building ground game and building grassroots support, but we are not full-time campaigning yet.
And Sufferpoop, he's not. He's going to be in most of your rallies.
He will be involved with the campaign process. He's very involved already with the planning.
I know this might be next question is going to sound a little bit maybe harsh. Maybe I don't think I put into the correct terminology, but if it just sounds a bit harsh, sorry about that. Some people have been saying that your VP candidate Sufferpoop is outdated in accordance with experience. Do you feel this is true? If not, how is it false?
I think he's incredibly smart. I can't think of any scandal he's been involved in. He must be one of the purest politicians this group has. He has probably the most experience just on paper out of anyone. I also picked him because him and I are different, so he can counterbalance my negatives and amplify my positives as a president. I did not choose him because he'd be the easiest person to win with. I chose him based on, if we do win, is he the person I want in that seat?
But do you feel that his experience is maybe a bit outdated? It's back.
No, I do not find it outdated at all. I completely disagree with that assertion.
How is your opinion on the current development of Los Angeles, New York City, and Philadelphia?
I think it is way too preemptive. We don't even have a capital yet. Why are we focusing attention on LA, New York, and Philly? We should fix the capital. We need the capital. The lack of a capital is hurting our foreign affairs. It is objectively hurting our foreign affairs. We need a capital.
Yeah, there has been some rumors. Sorry for interrupting you earlier. I didn't know if you finished or not. But there has been some rumors about DC being possibly discommissioned or discontinued. Do you have an opinion on that? Like, do you feel that should happen?
I would completely be against that. I would lobby against that. I'd be completely against that. I know some people in Congress think it doesn't matter because it's not going to bring in as much money as Las Vegas, but that's not what DC is for. It's a capital. We need a capital.
So what do you have to say to the DC devs who have been?
I would tell them I don't know what's taking so long. I know they had it finished and then they just decided to not release it. I don't know what's taking so long, and it needs to be released, and at the least, they need to fix the current one.
We'll move on to the next question. What is your current opinion about Night Gallaudet retiring as owner of NUSA and most likely transferring it to Paul, the LV developer? Also, what is your general opinion about Paul?
I think that Night Gallaudet is entitled to taking his exit. He's been here for a while. I think it's going to be very different, the transition. I would hope that the culture would remain the same with Paul, and I do have doubts about Paul only because he's so focused on Las Vegas. I'm worried about him getting involved in government, and I guess time will tell. But I do support him. He's been chosen, and that means, and this is a kind of decision where the country needs to unify around it. So I'll be supporting him.
That's great to hear. Now he has stated, I think it's several occasions that he's kind of continuing what Knight is going to be doing. He's even saying that he doesn't even want the name to be PUSA. He wants it to continue to be NUSA or NUSA.
Or we could just call it USA. Yeah, it's going to have to remain NUSA. NUSA is an iconic name. It's not going to change.
Yeah, but he has just stated in general that he wants a lot of the same features, because I think a lot of people enjoy the community. I think it's very involved, right? Do you kind of agree?
I agree.
That's great to hear. Next question. Now, today is 9/11, and I don't think we should just be focusing on news. I think we should just discuss it for a second. What do you have to say? It's 9/11. What do you have to say today?
I think it was a tragedy, and today we should respect the victims. There's not much else to say. There's not much we can do here, and just remain respectful. Mm-hmm. And if anybody knows any of the families, pray for them.
Now, I know many people have already done a moment of silence for today, but would you be fine with doing a moment of silence right now?
From USA, the United States of America.
If that's fine with you?
Sure.
Alright, we'll just do a moment of silence. Everyone just be quiet for a second, turn off your music or whatever. We'll just wait for a second. Alright, we don't need it to be that long. What is your opinion on the current FEC scandal involving Salvador Baru Asino? I don't even know how to properly say his name.
I think the election was stolen from him. I think it is unfair, given how many, what about everyone in Calvin's Florida? Why weren't they disqualified when they ran before? Which is why we appointed him, because he clearly had a mandate, and his disqualification was just plain out wrong.
Do you feel that the FEC needs reform? If so, what reform?
I think we need to, I don't know why we're constantly having elections recently. I don't know why there seems to be a Senate or House election every week or two. It's kind of hurting Congress's ability to focus on actually governing, because they're always focused on re-election. So I think we need to set dates yearly, because right now something's not working. So we need to fix that.
Actually, I think the dates are set by the Constitution, or similarly, again, it says that every month an election has to happen for each House of Congress. The Senate usually happens at the beginning of the month, and House usually happens at the end of the month. So sometimes it just ties together almost. That within a week it happens. We'd have to edit the we'd have to amend the Constitution for that, I believe, to change those dates. But I think Senator Ryan even proposed that that there will be no classes for House. Do you believe in that? I know some people have talked about it.
No, I disagree with that. And Ryan has begun his tenure by proposing an unconstitutional resolution that's going to be challenged, and I expect it to be defeated in the Supreme Court. What he's done is clearly unconstitutional and a power grab. He has come into the Senate, and on his first day, he's tried to restrict the President pro tempore's mandate of a 3-month term that he has now won twice in a row through a resolution passed by 5 people in game, and that's going to be challenged.
Yeah, some people have mixed opinion on Ryan Reaven. You know my whole entire story with Ryan Reaven. I don't want to babble about it, but you know my entire problem with him and how many people see him as this
He's a snake.
Yeah, he's a snake. Definitely, he's definitely corrupt in my eyes. I think he comes in, he does everything. He does every backroom deal you can possibly think of. But this is not about him. How do you plan on managing your campaign while continuing to be an active and effective vice president?
I'm still active and effective, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing right now. I do not expect there to be any conflicts of interest or problems with activity.
Alright. Just a simple question. Some speculation has risen about if you win this election, this next upcoming presidential election, will you be a 1-term president or a 2-term president?
1 term.
1 term. So you will not.
I already think 6 months is too long. I think it should be 4. But I don't intend on. I'm not going to be able to do anything after a first term just because of the time, and I'm not going to waste my summer. And
are you gonna?
Once I go off to college, I'm done. And
all right.
I have no intention of serving a 2nd term.
Are you gonna encourage Sufferpoop to run?
It's up to him.
Will you encourage him? Will you just say, "Hey, you should run"? Like, kind of like that, you know? You don't have to force him.
I couldn't tell you. It's just way too long out. It's too far out.
That's fine. Next question. What is next for the administration with Sudden? Now that the election is underway, is he already a lame duck?
No, he's the opposite. He remains committed and influential, and we're going to continue to do the work we've been doing.
Do you feel that in this USA that lame ducks do exist? Do you think that Sudden will become a lame duck?
No, I don't think there is such thing as a lame duck. At least here.
All right. Question number 16. What is your opinion on the recent loss for Democrats in the Senate election?
It's obvious that the party's leadership did not do enough. Sudden and I were not able to do much for the election itself. He was off. I was only able to come on for about an hour, and it showed compared to the House election in which both of us were able to focus on it all day, and we got a lot of votes in. So I think it speaks to a problem in the party apparatus, and they need to do better for future elections. So we are disappointed. But we'll be fine. I mean, the country is obviously still with us. Look at the House election that happened a week ago for that. And we just need to do better at getting out the vote.
Next question. Can you go a little bit in depth about your union plan that you have been so passionate about?
My plan is to basically create a process by which workers can collect together and create a federal union that would be recognized and protected by the government. They could lobby for treatment by their employers and things like that, and link it with businesses in our country. It's just about empowering federal workers. So we'll have things like collective bargaining, protection, etc. So I am excited, and you'll see a lot of more details come out in the bill itself.
Now, I know, I think we discussed this when we were before the stream, but I do want to bring it up because I just get the messages people are talking about the union plan and at-will employment. Just give like a brief, your vision on it. Do you think that's still a good thing, at-will employment? Do you think people will challenge it?
I think you can't challenge a private business on at-will employment. I think you can challenge government agencies for it. If a director fires someone because they don't like him, that should be reversed. I think when it comes to a privately owned business, we really can't do much about it, unfortunately. So that's what I would say about that.
For all the viewers who don't understand what at-will employment is basically that agency has policy where they can fire you for anything, for any reason, at their will. That's exactly what it means. At their will, whenever they want, for whatever they want, however they want, pretty much. What are you planning about fixing our crumbling judicial system? People have just basically cried out for something to happen about it. They feel that it's just broken.
There's just not much you can do about a private business and firing somebody.
We moved on to another question about the judicial system.
The judicial branch, what we can do about it?
Well, just in general, the judicial system, how we can fix it, because it's
I think it's stacked with a bunch. I think it has a lot of problems, but I think we fix that by first you need to clear out the loopholes, and we need to decide: are we going to use U.S. code or are we going to create our own U.S. code?
I think I discussed that in a Democrat rally.
The bar exam is so broken and just screwed up. There's just a lot of small problems that need to be fixed.
What about? I know I mentioned it. I don't think you talked about. What about an appeals court? Do you think that's an appellate court? Do you think that's necessary?
Yeah, we need appeals. We need real appeals. I also have a problem with the Supreme Court conducting federal court level processes. They're way too involved in federal court stuff. They shouldn't be. That's just not right.
Do you think that the Supreme Court is a bit overpowered? Some people have said the Supreme Court is just...
Yeah, it's way overpowered. It should not be conducting federal level procedure. That should be for federal district courts, not the Supreme Court. They shouldn't be AOSing people. That's not what the Supreme Court is for, unless it's an ultimate appeal. They should not be taking cases that should be taken in federal court level, in a federal court.
Well, isn't one of the people are plutocrats are complaining about the crumbling judicial system
because the plutocrats own the judicial system, and it's stacked in their favor. These are guys who have time to spend. I think it's difficult to work with them. They would, I got Samuel King 22 nominated, and I don't get credit for that. I only get credit for bad nominations. I think they have a problem with, look what they're doing right now. They've come into this interview to shitpost and take away from the discussion. I mean, that is plutocrats in general, and now they're trying to call me a crack baby, which is par for the course.
I'm sorry.
Day.
I'm sorry.
This is what their party does, and then they complain about us not being able to work with them.
They say 1 second they're saying that something's wrong and that you need good judges, but they're the ones that denying the judges. You know what I mean?
I mean, like they brigaded this interview to say nasty things because they don't have anything better to do. And then they're going to come on in 2 days and then complain that we're not working with them. I have tried to communicate with their chair about nominations, about things they'd like, and I don't get anything in response. They tell me, oh, well, we don't have any nominations to give right now. So I say, okay. They don't send me ideas on legislation. I had no problem with them denying Ozyman.
Yeah.
I didn't want Ozyman to be appointed. I have no problem with that. But then for them to claim that I don't try to work with them is ludicrous, because I've tried to ask Surprise Party and through private communication what I can do to foster more unified work as our two parties, and I don't get much response. And then they attack me for not being bipartisan enough, which is fine. I mean, they're a bunch of kids who have time to kill, but they, you know, I don't know what much to say else on them. I think this interview chat is a clear example of why they are immature. And you know that you get that when you in any group, you get this kind of group of people. They just happen to have the judicial branch stacked in their favor, so they get to stick around.
Next question: what is your response to GOP Protector of the Seal Cody G. Porter endorsing you? Do you feel this is an essential step to unity and bipartisanship?
He endorsed me because he likes my ideas, and he's free to endorse me on that. I'm happy to have it. I'm happy to bring in anyone from any political spectrum. So, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with him endorsing me, and I think it's rich that people like Calvin, who campaigned on being independent and bipartisan.
We're moving on to that. That's literally the next question.
And bringing parties together is now criticizing the GOP leader for taking probably the ultimate step in bipartisanship. So that doesn't really, you know, he could have, it's the same people that will hate me no matter what. I could, you know, save babies and they'd find a reason to complain. So I'm not concerned at all.
Last question that we have before we move on to the hashtag questions. What is your opinion on Calvin and Ozzy's attempted coup in the House of Representatives? What is the next step to resecuring the House's stability and dignity?
Well, it failed. It absolutely failed. It's pathetic. It just speaks to the fact that they didn't run on being productive. They're trying to run on a power grab, and they're going to be expelled. That's all I'll say.
So you're going to expel them, and then it's just
they are. I absolutely know for a fact that several representatives want to expel them.
All right.
And they should be expelled.
Alright, now we're going to move on into hashtag Ask VP Tim questions. So if you have any questions for Tim, please use the hashtag Ask VP Tim, and I'll just give you guys a second to type out some questions. I have one on Twitter from, Dev Bruce says, why is the administration ignorant to new faces, and what is your opinion on the legislative branch in its current state?
Well, I've already answered the new faces thing, but in regards to the legislative branch, I think they're okay. They need. It's Congress. It's always going to be a rat house in there. So that there's not much you can do about that. I think that some people take it way too seriously and get way too heated about it.
All right, we have a hashtag Ask VP question. Someone asks, what is your opinion on the 23rd Amendment?
I think it has several problems, and I'm not gonna support it until some real changes are made, and that's all I'll say on that.
Another Tim, another question asks, who won the war between the UK and NUSA? What was the final score?
I don't count scores, but it was obvious that we didn't do well.
Another question given is, I'm looking right now, how come the administration only exists of Sutton's friends? I think you kind of touched on this a bit.
I touched on that, but I'd also say I wasn't a friend of Sutton when I became SecDef. People just, they need to understand that sometimes you can be his friend and also be supremely qualified for the job at the same time. Sutton's an extremely well-connected individual. He has a lot of friends. And I already touched up on this earlier.
Next question. What are your thoughts on gun laws? I don't think we have any, but I guess you should.
I think we should. I don't support any restrictions on the Second Amendment here.
Next question. What are your thoughts on Mr. JLHL being appointed by Sutton to the Senate?
I think he's very good for the job. He was Prime Minister of UK. He's very good with legislation. He's very smart. Has good temperament. He's good for the job, and I support that.
That's good. Let's see. Other questions. I'm looking if they have any more questions right now. I'm looking back in the chat. Oh my god, some of these questions are just... Okay, here you go. What are your thoughts on Spy Agent 388? Next question, next part of the question is just not good. What is your opinion on Spy Agent, I guess?
I think he is way too, he was so supportive of Sutton until he didn't get the nod for CIA director. And then he was anti-Sutton and pro-Aussie after bashing Aussie. And now he's cooling down because now he's angling for Deputy Secretary of State. And when he doesn't get it, he's going to turn into anti-Sutton again, And that is a classic guy who's just fishing for a job and isn't willing to put in the work. And I'm not going to entertain that kind of person.
Next question. What are your thoughts on the impeachments of Steph Jones and Icy Sound? They're both FJ.
If they're inactive, they got to go.
Okay. Our policing agencies are going down with quality. What will you do? I'm not sure what they mean by that, but you can answer the question to the best you can.
I would say that we need to put in more training standards across the board for law enforcement, especially when it comes to conducting arrests. We also need to increase their numbers. I think they're understaffed right now. So we just need to increase their numbers and increase the education on how to conduct arrests and how to conduct those kind of processes in law enforcement.
Give me a second. I think I accidentally put someone in timeout instead of putting the other person in timeout. Sorry, Sheldon. I put you in timeout for accidentally. I tried to put this guy who keeps spamming the chat in timeout instead. Someone says, how do you file an appeal for an executive blacklist?
So far as you can't appeal an executive blacklist, which I think the executive blacklist is basically the president saying, I'm not going to hire you in the executive branch, which is in his right to do, because technically he hires everyone in the executive branch through directors. So you can't really appeal that. It's just a database for saying, I don't want to hire you in the executive branch. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's a different discussion, but you can't really appeal that.
Next question. I'm trying to look. What are your do you support bringing back the Department of Education back to teach Americans how to be law enforcement and work in the private sector?
No, because it's been tried before and it never works out. Just increase the training standards in each department. You don't need an education department for that. It just doesn't work. Never has, never will.
Alright, next question. Someone says, what are you going to do about SWAT? They are being killed by Pentagon. I don't even know how to say his name properly. I'm not... Tim, what are your opinions on SWAT currently?
I mean, those kind of questions kind of hint at someone having a personal problem with the director. I can definitely look into it. You know, I'm not gonna bash the director, and I'll look into it, but I'm not gonna, you know, what that looks like to me is someone who's very angry at the director privately.
What are your thoughts on the Department of Commerce and Labor trying to get GNCA contract? I'm not sure what they mean by that, but
He's talking about the very small 40 Robux fee. If you want to be recognized by the Commerce and Labor, you're going to have to register with Commerce and Labor. You don't get to set up shop and not be recognized. That's just the laws right now, and I think it's very rich that a company that makes a lot of money can't cough up 40 Robux.
Well, this is something that has been controversial. Jeez, what, I can't even speak. I even talked about it briefly with both the Deputy Secretary and the Secretary of Commerce and Labor. And it just in general, what the small businesses, that the normal Joe and Jan who can't afford, who barely can afford making a group, have to pay 40 Robux. Some people just saying that there has to be reform for the department, including the fact that the department, even the deputy secretary said that it's pretty inactive right now. And where's these 40 Robux?
It's one thing to talk of. I mean, maybe exceptions should be given to those startup businesses, but GNC is not a startup business. Yeah. They're a huge business with money to pay. Spy agent wanting to think he's special does not constitute an exception to be given. It is not hard. Somebody who, I just don't, nobody's threatening him. When you don't comply with federal law, you're going to be told if you don't comply, there's going to be action. That's not a threat. That's enforcing the law.
All right. But what are your general opinions? Where is all this 40 Robux going? Like, the agency's inactive. They're saying that the money's
it'll go to. My hope is that it would go to the Treasury. I think that speaks to a completely different problem. Las Vegas makes who knows how much a day, and it should be going to the Treasury Department to be budgeted. I don't know why that can't happen, and that's something I'd like to lobby the development